Before you master anything in life, you must first master yourself. Because if your mind is not under your control, it becomes your master. Every day, we are surrounded by distractions, noise, chaos, thoughts that never stop. We wake up, and before we even take a breath, the mind has already started running, worrying about the past, fearing the future. We want peace, but our thoughts do not allow us to rest. This is the struggle of the modern world. The mind is full, yet the heart feels empty. So the question is not, can you control the world? The question is, can you control your mind? In the Shaolin way, we say, the mind is like water. When it is calm, everything becomes clear. But when it is disturbed, you cannot see your reflection. Many people try to fight their thoughts. They resist fear, anger, or sadness. But what you resist only grows stronger. You cannot fight the waves. You must learn to surf them. At the monastery, our training is not only physical, it is mental. We wake up before sunrise, not to punish the body, but to discipline the mind. When the body becomes tired, the mind wants to stop. But this is where you begin to see who is truly in control, you or your thoughts. Your mind will whisper, I can't do it, it's too hard, I'm not enough. You must learn to recognize that voice, not as truth, but as a test. Because that voice is not who you are. It is simply the noise of your conditioning, your fears, your past. When you learn to observe your thoughts, not react, not fight, simply observe, you begin to take the first step toward freedom. The space between a thought and your reaction, that is where your power lies. This is what we call mind control. Controlling your mind does not mean you stop thinking. It means you are no longer enslaved by your thoughts. You use the mind as a tool, not as a master. If you can control your mind, you can control your emotions. If you can control your emotions, you can control your actions. And when you control your actions, you control your destiny. So ask yourself, when anger comes, do I feed it or let it pass? When fear comes, do I follow it or face it? When doubt comes, do I listen or rise above it? Discipline is not about punishment. It is about liberation. Because once your mind becomes still, your true strength awakens. Peace is not found in silence. Peace is found when your mind no longer controls you. Train your mind every day in small things. Breathe deeply when chaos appears. Pause before reacting. Listen before speaking. Be aware before judging. These are the gates through which the mind becomes your ally. Remember, you cannot control the world. But if you control your mind, the world can no longer control you. The mind is the foundation of everything you experience. Every choice, every emotion, every success or failure begins there. If your mind is in chaos, your life will reflect that chaos. But when your mind becomes calm and disciplined, even the storms around you cannot shake your peace. The quality of your life is not determined by what happens to you, but by how your mind interprets what happens. Most people live as prisoners of their own thoughts. They wake up each day reacting to everything, to the weather, to traffic, to people, to emotions. Their happiness rises and falls based on external events. If someone praises them, they feel worthy. If someone criticizes them, they collapse. This is not control, this is slavery. True freedom begins when you realize that your mind should serve you, not rule over you. When you begin to observe your thoughts, something powerful happens. You see that they come and go like clouds in the sky. Some are peaceful, others are dark and heavy, but none of them are permanent. If you attach to every thought, you lose your center. But if you remain the observer, calm, still, aware, the mind starts to obey you. It begins to follow your direction rather than dragging you through endless waves of distraction and emotion. In Shaolin philosophy, mastery of the mind is not achieved through suppression, but through understanding. You do not force silence upon the mind. You guide it. You train it through practice, discipline, and awareness. Every moment becomes an opportunity to strengthen your inner stability. When anger arises, you breathe. When fear appears, you face it. When doubt speaks, you listen, but do not obey. Slowly, the mind learns that you are the master, not the victim. Think about a warrior preparing for battle. If his sword is sharp, but his mind is weak, he will lose. But if his mind is steady, calm under pressure, unshaken by fear, then even with limited tools, he becomes unstoppable. Life is no different. Challenges will always come, but they are not the enemy. The true enemy is the undisciplined mind that panics, reacts, and destroys inner peace. To master the mind, you must cultivate stillness. Stillness is not the absence of thought, but the ability to remain centered no matter what thoughts arise. It is the ability to pause before reacting, to choose your response consciously instead of being controlled by emotion. This stillness is built through consistent practice. Meditation, breathing, mindful action. Just as the body becomes strong through physical training, the mind becomes strong through mental discipline. Start with small things. When frustration comes, breathe before speaking. When anxiety rises, observe your breath instead of following the fear. When temptation appears, pause before giving in. Each small act of awareness is a step toward mastery. Over time, these steps build inner power. You will begin to notice that the world's noise no longer controls your peace. When the mind is mastered, clarity emerges. You begin to see things as they truly are, not as your fears or desires project them to be. Decisions become easier. Relationships become more peaceful, and goals become clearer. You act with intention rather than impulse. You move with purpose instead of panic. This is what it means to master your life. Not through control of others, but through mastery of yourself. The most powerful victories are invisible ones. The moments when you silence the inner voice of doubt, when you choose calm over chaos, when you act with wisdom instead of anger. Every time you overcome your own mind, you win a battle that no one else can see. Yet that victory transforms everything around you. To master your mind is to master your world. The outer world may remain unpredictable, but within there will be peace. And from that peace comes true power. This truth is not poetic, it is practical. Everything that you experience in life is filtered through the mind. Every success, every failure, every emotion begins from a single thought. Before you take an action, before you say a word, before you make a choice, the mind moves first. If the mind is clear, the action that follows will be wise. But if the mind is chaotic, the action will be reckless. The human mind has limitless potential. It can create beauty, innovation, compassion, and power beyond measure. It can also destroy peace, relationships, and purpose when left uncontrolled. The same mind that can imagine great inventions can also imagine fears that never existed. The same mental energy that builds confidence can, if turned inward, create anxiety and self-doubt. That is why awareness is the first step. You must know whether your mind is working for you or against you. Think of your mind as a sword. A sword in the hands of a disciplined warrior protects, defends, and serves with purpose. But the same sword, in the hands of someone untrained, becomes dangerous, not only to others but to the one holding it. The sharper the sword, the greater the responsibility to control it. The sharper the mind, the greater the need for discipline. In daily life, the mind constantly speaks. It comments, judges, compares, and reacts. Most people do not realize how much power these inner voices hold. A single negative thought, "I'm not good enough," "It's too late," "I can't do this," can spiral into a storm of fear and inaction. Once the mind believes these stories, it begins to create reality around them. You see obstacles where there are none. You doubt opportunities before they appear. The mind becomes an enemy disguised as your own reflection. But when you train the mind, it becomes your greatest ally. Discipline transforms it from chaos into clarity. Through awareness and mindfulness, you learn to separate you from your thoughts. You begin to realize, I am the observer, not the noise. In that moment, you reclaim control. The same energy that once created fear now fuels focus. The same imagination that built anxiety now builds vision. To master the mind, you must train it like a muscle. Meditation, breathing, stillness. These are not spiritual luxuries, they are tools of mental strength. When you sit in silence and watch your thoughts, you begin to understand their patterns. You see how easily emotions rise and fade. You notice how fear appears, demands attention, and then disappears like a cloud. With practice, you stop chasing every thought. You become grounded. When anger appears, you can pause before reacting. When doubt whispers, you can question it instead of obeying. When fear knocks, you can face it instead of running. This is true power, not power over others, but power over yourself. In the Shaolin tradition, this control is not just for the mind, it extends to the body and the spirit. Every movement, every breath, every action begins with awareness. When the mind is stable, the body follows. When the mind is scattered, even strong warriors lose balance. The outer world reflects the inner one. That is why mastering the mind is the highest form of self-defense. Life will never stop testing you. People will challenge you, circumstances will shift, uncertainty will rise. But when your mind is steady, you can face all storms without being shaken. You will see clearly even in darkness. You will act with intention instead of reaction. The mind is both the battlefield and the weapon. You choose which side it fights for. When trained, it protects your peace, builds your strength, and unlocks your potential. When untrained, it sabotages your purpose and steals your freedom. The choice is always yours, to be the master or to remain the servant. When the mind is calm, the entire world within you becomes clear. Most people think strength comes from force, from pushing harder, training longer, or proving themselves louder. But real strength does not shout. Real strength is silent, steady, and unshakable. It comes from a calm mind. A calm mind is not an empty one. It is a mind that has learned to remain still even when everything around it moves in chaos. In life, storms will come. Emotions will rise. People will test your patience. Circumstances will challenge your peace. But if your mind remains calm, you can see clearly what must be done. Just like a lake, when its surface is still, it reflects everything perfectly. But when it is disturbed, even the most beautiful image becomes distorted. Many people try to find peace by escaping, by avoiding the things that disturb them. But true peace is not found in isolation, it is found in control. You can be surrounded by noise and still remain quiet inside. You can be in the middle of pressure and still remain centered. That is what a calm mind gives you. The power to remain stable when others lose balance. When your mind is calm, your energy becomes focused. You stop wasting your strength on unnecessary reactions. Think of how much energy people spend every day worrying about the future, regretting the past, or arguing over things that do not matter. A calm mind does not chase those illusions. It knows that peace is not in the absence of problems, but in the ability to handle them with clarity. In training, we are taught that when the body becomes tired, the mind begins to wander. It wants to quit, to rest, to give in. But that moment is not a signal to stop. It is the test of your inner stillness. A calm mind observes the pain, accepts it, and continues with discipline. Because pain passes, but what remains is the strength of character you build in its presence. When fear appears, a restless mind reacts. It overthinks, hesitates, and creates more fear. But a calm mind simply sees fear as information, not as truth. It studies the feeling and acts wisely, not emotionally. This is how warriors train, not only through movement, but through stillness. The calm mind sees everything clearly, therefore, it decides correctly. In relationships, a calm mind allows you to listen, not just hear. It allows you to respond, not react. When someone offends you, a restless mind attacks back, but a calm mind sees beyond the words. It recognizes that another person's anger is often their pain in disguise. And instead of feeding the fire, it keeps peace alive. In moments of uncertainty, When life does not go as planned, your calm mind becomes your anchor. The world outside may be unpredictable, but the world inside must be steady. You cannot always control what happens, but you can control how you meet it. That choice, that pause between reaction and action, is where calmness turns into power. Meditation, breathing, and self-discipline are not rituals for monks only, they are tools for every human being. When you take a few minutes each day to breathe consciously, you are not just relaxing. You are training your mind to return to stillness. Each breath becomes a reminder, I am not my thoughts. I am the one who observes them. And this is the essence of strength, to be the still point in a turning world. When your mind is calm, your decisions are sharper, your emotions are balanced, and your presence becomes powerful. Others feel it, not as force, but as peace, because true strength does not come from the ability to fight. It comes from the ability to remain calm when everything within you wants to fight. Calm mind, strong spirit, this is not just a phrase. It is a way of living, a daily practice. It means walking through life not as a storm, but as the eye within it, unshaken, clear, and at peace. Control your thoughts before they control you. This is not a saying, it is a way of life. Every action you take, every emotion you feel, every result you experience begins first as a single thought. Thoughts are the seeds from which your entire reality grows. But most people do not choose what they plant. They allow their minds to run wild, scattering seeds of fear, anger, jealousy, and doubt, and then wonder why their lives are filled with chaos. The truth is, your mind is constantly speaking, even when you are silent. It tells stories about who you are, what you can do, and what you deserve. When you are not conscious, you begin to believe every story it tells. The thought comes, I am not good enough. You feel it. You act from it. And it becomes your truth, not because it was real, but because you gave it power. The mind is a powerful servant, but a dangerous master. It can lift you to greatness or chain you in misery. To control your thoughts does not mean you suppress them or pretend they do not exist. It means you become aware of them. Awareness is the first step to mastery. When you observe a thought, just look at it without judgment. You begin to create space between you and the mind. That space is freedom. In that space, you can choose how to respond instead of reacting automatically. Imagine you are walking through a busy street. Noise, traffic, people rushing everywhere. This is what the untrained mind looks like, loud, chaotic, always in motion. Now imagine standing on a mountain at dawn, silence, stillness, clarity. That is the trained mind. The difference is not in the world around you. It is in the awareness within you. Every day, the mind produces thousands of thoughts. Most of them are not new. They are repetitive patterns, habits of thinking shaped by your past. If you do not guide them, they will guide you. Often back to the same pain, the same fear, the same limitation. But if you take charge, if you decide, I will no longer be a prisoner of my thoughts, then transformation begins. Start with small practices. When a negative thought arises, pause, breathe, do not follow it down its dark path. Ask yourself, is this thought useful? Does it help me grow? If not, let it go. Replace it with one that empowers you. Over time, you will notice that your inner dialogue begins to change. The mind becomes quieter, clearer, more focused. Thoughts are energy. Where your attention goes, your energy flows. If you keep feeding worry, worry grows stronger. If you keep nurturing gratitude, gratitude becomes your natural state. The direction of your mind decides the direction of your life. When the mind is out of control, it pulls you in many directions. You feel scattered, restless, and tired. But when you control it, it becomes like a laser, sharp, precise, unstoppable. The Shaolin monks spend years mastering not only their bodies but their minds, because they understand this truth: strength without control is chaos. True power lies in stillness. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who sees them. When you realize this, your life changes completely. You stop being the actor lost in the story and become the observer, calm, centered, aware. From that place, you can choose peace over anger, patience over reaction, purpose over confusion. Control your thoughts before they control you, not through force, but through understanding. The mind is not your enemy. It is your greatest ally when guided with wisdom. But it will test you every day, whispering fear when you face the unknown, doubt when you stand for something, and temptation when you are close to progress. The test never ends, but neither does your ability to choose awareness over reaction. Train the mind like you train the body, with patience, repetition, and care. Each moment of mindfulness strengthens your inner discipline. And as your awareness deepens, you will see that mastery of the mind is the foundation of all peace, power, and purpose in life. Discipline is often misunderstood. Many believe it means strict control, suppression, or the absence of freedom. But in truth, discipline is the highest form of freedom a human being can attain. Because when you are disciplined, you are no longer a slave to your impulses. You are no longer driven by every fleeting emotion, every craving, every distraction that pulls you away from your path. Most people today confuse freedom with doing whatever they want. They say, I want to be free to eat what I want, sleep when I want, go where I want. But this kind of freedom, without awareness, leads to chains that are invisible. You become trapped in habits, trapped in addictions, trapped in the endless loop of comfort and dissatisfaction. True freedom begins when you have the power to say no, not to others, but to yourself. To that voice that says, stay in bed. To that feeling that says, I'll do it tomorrow. To that temptation that says, just this once. When you can rise above those inner whispers, you begin to experience what real discipline is. In the Shaolin path, discipline is not punishment. It is not forced. It is cultivated with patience, with clarity, with purpose. We rise early, we train, we meditate, not because someone demands it, but because it strengthens the spirit. The body becomes a vessel for the mind, and the mind becomes the master of the self. When you practice discipline, you build consistency, and from consistency, you build strength. Every day that you stay committed to something, no matter how small, you are proving to your mind that you are in charge. The world outside may be unpredictable, but the world within you begins to find order. Imagine your mind as a wild horse. If left untrained, it will run wherever it pleases, sometimes into light, often into darkness. But if you guide it patiently, with care and persistence, that same horse can carry you to great distances. Discipline is the reins that allow you to ride instead of being dragged. In moments of difficulty, discipline keeps you grounded. When motivation fades, and it always does, discipline remains. Motivation is the spark. Discipline is the fire that keeps burning through the night. Those who rely only on motivation will rise and fall like the tide. Those who cultivate discipline will move forward no matter the weather. Discipline also creates peace. When you have control over your actions, there is no inner conflict. You don't argue with yourself every morning about what needs to be done. You simply do it. The mind becomes quieter because it knows the direction. There is no confusion, no hesitation, only flow. The irony is that what feels restrictive at first eventually becomes liberating. The structure that discipline provides allows your energy to be focused, your creativity to expand, and your goals to manifest. The same way a river flows stronger when it has clear banks, your life gains power when guided by discipline. Discipline is not about perfection. It is about persistence. It is about showing up, even when you don't feel like it, even when it's uncomfortable. Every act of discipline rewires your mind. It teaches your brain that you are capable of more than your excuses suggest. There will be moments when you stumble, when you fail, when you break your routine. But discipline is not lost in those moments. It is built when you get up again, when you return to the path with humility and determination. Discipline is not a cage. It is the key that unlocks your highest potential. It frees you from the chaos of emotion, from the tyranny of desire, from the fear of failure. It gives you the strength to move with purpose, to act with clarity, and to live with peace. That is the true meaning of freedom. When your mind becomes still, something extraordinary begins to happen. The noise that once filled every moment, the worries, the comparisons, the endless what-ifs, slowly begins to fade. In that silence, you begin to hear something far more powerful than the chatter of your thoughts, your own awareness. It is not the silence of emptiness. It is the silence of presence, a state where you are fully here, now, without the burden of yesterday or the anxiety of tomorrow. Most people mistake stillness for inactivity. They think a still mind means doing nothing. But true stillness is not the absence of movement. It is the mastery of movement. When the mind is still, you can move with clarity. You can act with purpose. You can respond with wisdom instead of reaction. Imagine a lake. When its surface is calm, it reflects everything perfectly. But when it is disturbed, everything becomes distorted. The same is true with the human mind. When your thoughts are constantly rippling with fear, anger, or desire, you lose sight of reality. But when those ripples settle, the truth becomes clear. In today's world, people are more connected yet more restless than ever. We are flooded with information, opinions, and desires that never end. We scroll, compare, consume, but rarely pause. The mind jumps from one thought to another like a restless monkey, and in that restlessness, we lose our peace. The tragedy is that we believe this is normal. We believe that stress, anxiety, and mental noise are just part of life. But this is not the natural state of the human being. This is a mind without discipline. When you learn to still the mind, even for a few moments, everything changes. The same world that once felt chaotic begins to slow down. Problems that once seemed impossible become manageable. Emotions that once controlled you lose their grip. Stillness gives you space. Space to think, space to breathe, space to choose. And in that space, wisdom arises. Stillness does not mean you have no thoughts. It means you are not trapped by them. You can see a thought for what it is. A temporary cloud passing through the sky of your awareness. When a storm passes, the sky does not disappear. It only waits behind the clouds. Your true self, your peace, is the same. It never leaves you. It is only covered by the storms of an uncontrolled mind. This is why monks train their minds through meditation, breathwork, and discipline. They are not escaping the world. They are mastering it from within. They understand that the mind is the foundation of every experience. If the foundation is weak, the house will collapse. But if the foundation is strong and steady, no storm can destroy it. Stillness is strength. It is the power to remain calm when life becomes chaotic. It is the ability to act without haste, to speak without anger, and to love without fear. It allows you to hear others deeply, to see beyond appearances, and to respond from wisdom instead of impulse. When your mind is still, your energy becomes focused. What once scattered in 1,000 directions now moves in one powerful stream. Creativity flows, intuition awakens, and inner peace deepens. You stop searching for meaning outside yourself because you discover it has always been within. Peace is not something you find, it is something you uncover. Beneath all your worries, beneath all your ambitions and regrets, peace is already there. Stillness simply removes the layers that hide it. It is not a gift from the world, it is your natural state. To reach this stillness, you must train daily. Breathe deeply when thoughts begin to rise. Observe them but do not follow. Sit quietly for a few moments each day, even when your mind screams for distraction. Over time, the waves will calm, and in their silence, you will finally meet yourself. Because when the mind becomes still, the soul begins to speak. So as you move through life, remember, every moment is a chance to return to yourself. The world will test your patience, challenge your peace, and pull you into noise. But when you learn to remain still in the middle of the storm, you rise above it. Power is not found in control over others. It is found in control over your own mind. And when your mind becomes your ally, life no longer feels like a battle. It becomes a path, clear, steady, and guided by inner peace.